an idea came into my head. This doll was known to cause people harm. One of the glass panels on the cabinet just shatters out of nowhere. I actually end up calling one of the priests from my old church to come and bless the place. He's kind of like wobbling back and forth, and all of a sudden, bam, he just hits the floor. And this is where things get interesting. So after the meme museum, we had a lot of people actually ask us if we were gonna do another event. I wasn't thinking about doing another event. I wasn't really planning it. I thought this was just gonna be a one-time thing. We had great success, that was it. But Halloween was around the corner and I love Halloween. So I was just thinking, like, if I were to do something for Halloween, what would I do? And an idea came into my head. First off, our space wasn't really that huge. It was 2 floors, but overall maybe like 2,000 square feet, divided into both of those spaces. So I know we couldn't execute a full haunted house with actors and pop-up screams and stuff like that. So I was thinking, what can I do with this small space? So I was watching some YouTube videos and I came across this YouTube channel that actually toured the Zak Bagans Haunted Museum, which I'd never heard about. But by watching the video, what I realized is that even though a lot of people thought that the whole museum supposedly filled with haunted artifacts was like fake, there was so much pre-framing done that they were showing and giving out stories of people that have passed out, that couldn't go through the rooms, that supposedly like were unconscious. And all of that pre-framing pretty much created the perception of that this experience was crazier than it actually is. So that's the way I wanted to take it. So to start off, it's a Halloween style pop-up. So I had to order some Halloween decor, props and stuff like that. I ended up spending like $12,000 on redecorating everything. I already had some of the stuff in the meme museum that I was reusing, but I needed to, spice it up and make it more Halloween focused. So since we weren't gonna have like scare actors and stuff like that, I did need to get hosts, because I wanted this experience to be like a walkthrough experience, but I don't want people to walk through it themselves because then people won't know what to do. So I ended up thinking, all right, let me make like a museum style and let me hire 5 hosts. Every time a group of 6 to 8 people walk in, the host will go through the people, will grab them, and then they will literally guide them through every part of the museum, where every pinpoint will be a different section, which would be either demonic possession cases, witchcraft, black magic. Overall, I had about 3 to 4 weeks to get ready. And again, the way that I like to do things is super rushed. So just like the meme museum, only 3 to 4 weeks, so barely any time. As I was building the exhibit, I was thinking like, man, I want to do more. Like, what else can I do to kind of like scare people or, just provide them extra fear factor in this exhibit? So I actually went on eBay because I had an idea, even though it was a little bit weird, but I went on eBay and I searched up haunted dolls. And I was actually amazed at the amount of listings that are on eBay on like haunted dolls. But I found one specific doll where the eBay seller was specifically saying that this doll was known to cause people harm and supposedly had like some type of negative energy attached to it. So it intrigued me. And I ended up buying the doll. So clicked on eBay, bought it, got it shipped, and I was just waiting for it. Then the doll arrives. And this is where things get interesting. So we're doing this whole construction thing. I had a couple guys help me paint, do a couple things here and there. And I remember specifically, I found this like China cabinet style piece of furniture that I wanted to display this haunted doll in. So I found it on Facebook Marketplace, had one of my guys help me go pick it up. And so he went to go pick it up with my little brother. They brought it in while I was working on some stuff in the museum. I remember I was upstairs doing something on the computer, and all of a sudden, like, I hear the sound of glass shattering. I'm like, what the hell was that? So I go downstairs and, that's where my brother and my other helper was like bringing the China cabinet. I thought like, oh, they might have just tipped it over and it fell or something. Like I was like, I'll just have to get another one. When I go down there, they have this like confused face and they just start telling me like, you're not gonna believe what just happened. We put up the shelf, it was just by itself. We were looking at the doll and literally the shelf has been up for like 5 minutes. Nothing has happened, no one's tipped it. The ground is not shaking because it's concrete floor. And literally just right behind us, like one of the glass panels on the cabinet just shatters out of nowhere, even though it's completely still. And I was like, are you sure? It's like, yeah, we were here this whole time. We were just staring at the doll. I didn't think too much of it until a few days later when I actually had one of my friends do like a little sneak peek of the museum. I invited him over to check it out. So the friend that I brought along with me to do a sneak peek of the museum, he supposedly is like sensitive to things. And so I told him beforehand that we had a haunted doll, and he was like telling me like, oh, like I can really tell if it's haunted or not, supposedly. So when we went down there, I had him go down with my partner Nancy, and they were messing around with some of the stuff. And then it got to the point where they came across the doll, and Nancy didn't tell him exactly which doll it was, but he actually pointed it out, the exact same one. And he was like, that's the one, right? I was like, how do you know that? It's like, I can feel it. But then my partner Nancy started playing around with him because, you know, it was like, oh, you know, doing this whole psychic thing. And so she was gonna grab the doll to kind of just put it right in front of him because he was a little bit scared to touch it. So as she was approaching to grab the doll, supposedly something just put her hand down. Like it literally slapped her hand down because I was 5 feet away from her when I heard her scream. I turned around and I was like, what happened? She was like, something just pushed my hand down. And she had like this shock face in her eyes and everything. It was just so weird that it wasn't faked. Like I know when she's playing around, but she was, you know, genuinely scared. And at that point, I started actually questioning whether if I should have bought the doll or not. Then comes another random night when we're working on a museum. It's literally like 1 or 2 in the morning, and I'm just working on computer stuff, trying to get some of the TV situated, stuff like that. And we're upstairs, and me and my partner are just working, and it's completely quiet. All the lights are on, of course, because we can't work in the dark. And we're just doing our thing when out of nowhere, we literally hear this loud bang. And I jump up to see like, okay, something must have fell, right? Like maybe probably one of the paintings or something fell. I started walking away and I started figuring out like what has actually fallen. One of the props that there was literally no way for it to fall by itself, like you literally have to tip it over and push it over, was on the floor. And all the windows, doors, everything's closed. There's no gust of wind, there was nothing. And this was, again, we were there the whole day. Why all of a sudden at like 1 or 2 in the morning does this prop just randomly fall? And I remember I was looking at me and my partner just looking at the doll or the prop on the floor, and we were just like, okay. At that point, we literally just packed our things and went home because I don't think we were gonna work that night anymore. So, okay, all these weird things are happening. And so at this point, I had another idea that I think was probably the best idea that I've ever had. I actually ended up calling one of the priests from my old church to come and bless the place. I knew that even if these things were real or not, like there is some type of an energy attached to everything. And I know we have a lot of dark stuff in here. So I was like, let me at least balance out this energy by having the Father bless the place. Like maybe that'll also like just balance out all of the energy. A couple days before the museum opens, had the Father come in. Our team was there, our 5 hosts, and my partner and I were there. And he comes in and blesses the place. We're in the basement. I show him around, and it's funny because he's actually pretty intrigued by the whole thing. I was thinking as a father, he'd be like, I don't know why you're doing this. Like, why do you have all these pentagrams and everything in there? But no, he was actually very intrigued, and he wanted actually to bring his school of Catholic kids to come check it out. So he blesses us. He puts a blessing on the whole place, and I feel a little more relieved because hopefully, like, whatever is going on here balances out. And, you know, even my team was a little bit more satisfied by having that happen. Let me talk you guys through the experience of what every single one of my guests went through. Cool. When you first pull up to the museum or building, you have to wait in line. As you were waiting in line, I had one of my hosts actually walk up there with a clipboard because there was a waiver that you have to sign before you get in. And in this waiver, it literally states that we are not responsible for all of these crazy things from nauseating, passing out, and all the way up to death. And so when people looked at these waivers and were reading it, because we literally made it really bold and just short, people were like, what the hell? Like, why do I have to sign this waiver? And so everyone was so confused, but also kind of like scared. So that helped with pre-framing because you have to sign a waiver just to get in. Now, as soon as they got in, that video that I took of the priest blessing the place, we had it up on a projector on the wall. And I would tell the host, when they walk in, one of the first things you got to tell them is, guys, because we have so many dark things and even a haunted doll in our basement, we had to have this place blessed by a priest just to balance out or cancel out all of the negative energy that's in here. And then as you're walking through the experience, again, the first floor It's just most of the storytelling type of concepts and pinpoints that we had. So as they're walking through the museum, it's already pretty tense. And the first couple of sections that they walk through are just setting the tone, and it's gonna get progressively more scarier as they go through the experience. And the first floor is like that. And the whole point is it sets the tone all the way till they get to the basement, because in the basement is where we had all of the haunted artifacts and demonic stuff and more of the darker stuff. So after a few nights of being open, we started hearing all of these crazy experiences and stories from our guests. So people are hearing footsteps, they're getting touched, or they're getting pushed, and it's just being weird. I remember one of the guests specifically was like a paranormal expert. They do supposedly paranormal investigations, and I showed them the proclaimed haunted doll, and he told me supposedly that he actually had like a vision or communication with the doll, and told me this crazy like backstory of the doll, that the girl, it was actually a little girl named Lucy, that she was from this age, and that this is what she likes and what she doesn't like. And he was actually one of the ones to tell me that there's a rule with haunted dolls, I guess, that you can't take a picture of it unless you ask for permission first. Otherwise, bad things can happen. And I remember also that one of our guests was taking a picture of the doll before one of our hosts was able to tell him that, hey, you need to ask for permission first. And when he looked back at the picture, the whole picture was blurry. Even though he wasn't moving or anything, he literally just took a picture, but the picture itself, it was just all smudged up and blurry. So that was like one of the weirdest things that happened. It was like, how does that happen? Later, then we told him that you needed to ask for permission. So he actually had to come back and apologize to the doll so that nothing else can happen to him. And it was so intense that we had a couple of people pass out at our experience. We had a pregnant lady in the basement who was with her group. For some reason, when she was in like the demonic possession worship section, she actually passed out and broke one of our temporary foam walls as she passed out, and it was so weird. But we made sure that she was okay. We made sure like she didn't need an ambulance or anything, but it was something quick. She said that she was okay, and her whole group was okay with it. And then we also had this other guy, which we actually caught on camera. So as you see him in the camera, you start noticing that he's looking a little dazed. He's kind of like wobbling back and forth, and all of a sudden, bam, he just hits the floor, like straight on. And I remember the whole thing was so loud that I kind of got startled when I heard that. And I was like, what happened? Like I thought something fell on somebody. And as I walked there, my hosts are already there attending to him. And it was like a quick 30 seconds that he was out for before he actually regained conscious. And we made sure he was okay. We was like, hey, are you okay? Like, do you need some water? We even asked him, like, do you have any conditions? Is this like has happened before? He said he's never passed out in his life before, and that this was the first time this ever happened to him. He doesn't know why he passed out. We even asked him, like, hey, at that point, do you want a refund? Like, do you want to continue this, or we can just give you a refund and you can go home or whatever? And he decided to go home because, it was too much for him. That was crazy. So overall, the experience was a huge success. People loved it. People were super scared. A lot of people had crazy experiences. And there was even people that opted out not even to come in, because some people, after they saw the waiver and all these experiences that we told them about, people were like, you know what, I can't come in here because they're supposedly too sensitive. So it was insane. But it was a great success story and a huge hit for a lot of people. And just in case you were wondering what happened to the allegedly haunted doll that we had, at the end of the museum, I was selling a bunch of our props. And I remember this one guy came in, he was super intrigued with everything that we had in there and made a couple offers on some of our items. And then I showed him the doll and he thought it was super cool. So I thought to my head, hey, by the way, if you want a doll, you can have it. The only caveat is you can't give it back. And he accepted it. He happily took the doll and went on his way. Never heard from the guy again, so I don't know what happened after that, but I should probably reach out to him to see if he's okay. In case you guys haven't noticed, I'm actually in my new studio in Denver, Colorado, and we've been doing a ton of crazy stuff over here. We're creating a bunch of content for YouTube, and I'm documenting a lot of the stuff that I'm doing here, from business to content creation to building a team here in Denver, Colorado, apart from my Chicago office. And so if you guys want to stay up to date with everything that's going on and how I got to this point, just make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and hit the bell icon so you can get notified every time we post a new video.